How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the 13th episode of Critically Incorrect. As I'm sure you've already noticed here on YouTube, you can see another face down here as our third member today is a very special guest, Zach, aka Madman's Knowledge. Go introduce yourself, man.
Hey, I'm Zach. I have a YouTube channel called Madman's Knowledge where I review games and movies and other media every once in a while, and I also live stream there.
Yeah, definitely a long-time friend of mine. We've known each other for, probably like 7 years now or something like that. Something crazy.
Something like that. Yeah, I don't even know.
Yeah, it's been a while. So definitely if you're into like Star Wars, other media like that, you used to do a lot of gaming and you still do a decent amount of gaming, but you're more of like a media content creator now. Definitely go make sure to go check out his channel. We'll have it in the description as always. And yeah, I guess while we're at it, I just want to remind you to ask any questions or any topics for next week's episode in the comment section down below or in our Discord. With that being said, Zach, what have you been playing gaming-wise for the last week? I know you mainly play games when you're live streaming, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I pretty much only play games when I live stream. The only other time would be if something comes out that I've been like really looking forward to, and if it's story focused, and I would rather not have chat there. But yeah, like I said, I just played Little Nightmares 2 yesterday. I'm sure this will go up sometime later. So it won't be yesterday when it goes up, but I've been playing Dark Souls 3, and then I just finished my first playthrough of Shadow of the Colossus.
Nice. Some great games there. And yeah, we're also going to be starting Bloodborne, which will be pretty cool here in a bit.
Yeah, that's right.
Definitely a good bit of games. How about you, Charlie? Since we last talked, what have you been playing?
So I know last week I'd mentioned how I'd been getting back into Sackboy. Well, that night I went and finished the game, and since then I've gone through and platinumed it, which is really good. I highly recommend Sackboy. It's a hell of a lot of fun. Other than that, it's mainly been a lot of multiplayer stuff, so I've been playing quite a bit of Black Ops and Apex recently. Just felt like playing a lot of shooters. And my copy of Neo Collection arrived yesterday for PS5, so I'm starting Neo 1 Up for the first time. I've never played either of them, so I'm excited to give those a go. I've probably put like an hour into the first one so far, and I'm enjoying it, so looking forward to playing more of that. But that's about it this week.
Right on. Yeah, Neo is definitely one of those games I want to play. I got to finish through Dark Souls 1, 3, and 2. It's funny, I play like all From Software games besides their actual big series, Dark Souls. But Neo is definitely on the list after that. Like both of you, have also been playing Little Nightmares 2. I guess to go back a bit, this past week I decided to use my PlayStation Now subscription and actually play through Little Nightmares just because the sequel is coming out and I wanted to try it out. Was a big fan of Inside, so definitely kind of scratched that itch. It's a bit different than Inside, obviously. You know, it's 3D. It's not like a fully 2D game like Playdead's games are. But still very similar. So I played through that. I ended up buying the DLC because I enjoyed the main game, and I played through the DLC. And yeah, yesterday I played through the entirety of Little Nightmares 2, and we'll have a whole segment about our, pretty much review on the game because all of us have finished the game. So look out for that later on in the podcast. Besides that, I think I played a bit of Sackboy with Charlie, and I honestly think that's mainly about it. I'm trying to think of anything else I played. If it was anything else, it was probably something with a friend for like an hour. Besides that, it's mainly been Little Nightmares. And yeah, that being said, there's been a lot of gaming news this past week. But before we get into that, out this week, Little Nightmares 2, that's out on PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. If you do buy it on any of the current generation consoles, you're going to be getting a next generation upgrade for free later on in 2021. They haven't really detailed what that next gen version will entail. I'm sure it'll be some kind of increase in the resolution to 4K or something. But yeah, Little Nightmares 2 came out this week. Alongside that, Super Mario 3D World just came out today as of the recording date. That's obviously a Nintendo Switch exclusive. A big Wii U game that a lot of people have been waiting for to get a port has finally come out. And yeah, with that being said, a lot of gaming news stories. Definitely going to go through a lot of these. It was a big week from, I think, Monday to even today. News has just been coming out. One of the bigger ones was Anthem. Jason Schreier broke this news story on Bloomberg. EA is going to be going over to visit the current state of Anthem. We know that Anthem 2.0 has been thrown around a while, at least for the last few years, ever since the initial launch of Anthem about 2 years ago now. The game obviously didn't do that great. Everyone kind of ripped on it for being uninspiring. It had a lot of issues. It just wasn't really finished. A lot of people thought the game had potential, and the devs obviously, wanted to give it another shot. So they've been working on a 2.0. That is going to kind of change the game. EA is going to be going over that internally and seeing how that project is coming along. And as of this week, we still don't know a verdict on it, but I'm sure within a few days we're going to know whether that project is going to be, getting kind of pushed forward with more team members joining the team and getting that out there, or completely canceled. So definitely, if you're ever interested in Anthem, it's going to be a big few days until we find out what happened, what the verdict is on it. So did any of you two have any thoughts on that?
I mean, Anthem's one of those games I played when it came out. Like, it was actually just before launch. They had like a couple previews, and the game, like, it has some cool ideas, but they just didn't. It felt like they didn't do anything with it. And I mean, we've heard loads about what was going on with the game even like before launch. Like, they didn't really know what the game was and things. And from like rumors and leaks about 2.0, it sounded pretty interesting, and I'd probably dive back in. But I remember last year, kind of the main thing was they weren't sure whether to release it in smaller updates so that they could get content out, or just save it for a massive 2.0. So it's interesting to see that they're leaving it this far into development for EA to decide whether to just cancel it altogether. I mean, as well, I'm sure it's a big decision for EA, because so far they'll have lost a lot of money on Anthem. They pumped millions into that game, and it didn't do too well. So it's a big choice. Hopefully we'll hear about something soon, but who knows?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
thoughts out to the team. Mm-hmm.
For me, Anthem is just the type of game where, like, even if it was good, I wouldn't have any interest in it. So yeah, I don't really have anything to say there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, my thoughts, like Charlie, like, if it's good, I'll check it out for sure. They're honestly what BioWare is currently working on, 2 other big projects, the next Mass Effect and the next Dragon Age. So, if it has promise, sure, but besides that, like, honestly, we don't really know much of what 2.0 really even means. So I'm just kind of like waiting for more information on that, because I can't really make a good verdict on that. But, I'm sure EA will make the decision that will make them the most, sense financially. So hopefully we hear about that, and, thoughts out to the team. Another news story, CD Projekt Red can't seem to escape news stories, I guess. Yeah, sadly, they got hacked this week. It's funny because it kind of reminded me of early, like, 2010 pranks with, like, Pwned. It was, like, a big trend back in the day. Essentially, someone got into their servers internally and hacked them. They're holding a bunch of source code for ransom, and as of this recording, there's actually a rumor that source code ended up getting sold in the black market. CD Projekt Red came out with a statement just kind of putting this out to the public that, as far as they're aware, none of the consumer information has been leaked online. Neither has ex-employee data, but they still wanted to get that out there. They even posted the actual Pwner's note, which I find kind of odd because that's never really been something that's happened before. I'll probably put an image up here on the video just so you can have a visual reference for it. But yeah, it's sad that honestly they have to go through this yet again. Obviously, this is probably due to someone either being pissed about Cyberpunk 2077 or just doesn't care about CD Projekt Red. Very toxic thing to do, obviously. But yeah, just thoughts out to the team. Hopefully nothing out of this, comes out any worse. Source code does suck if that gets leaked, but even worse is when people's personal information gets out there. So, yeah. Charlie, do you have any thoughts on that?
It's interesting mainly because of the rumors surrounding when it was actually sold. The guy or whoever it was that bought it, their kind of deal was that the source code could no longer be shared around or sold to anybody else. Like, this singular person now has it. So who knows what is gonna happen with it. Whoever bought it, it's down to them now whether, they post it on a forum and allow people to get hold of this stuff or try and sell it on. We may never hear about this ever again. This guy may just keep it on his computer somewhere on a hard drive and just use it as blackmail in like 20 years time. And the thing is as well, like they were on about how, they've got law enforcement and stuff on this thing. The important thing to note is this stuff never gets solved. Like, people are still going on about, the PSN hack of 2011. Like, nobody really knows who did that, like, 10 years on. So I highly doubt we ever, find out who did it, or if it's, a big group, or if it's just a single person. But yeah, hopefully that they're going to get better security. I know they said they had all this stuff backed up, so they've still got access to all this stuff. It's not gone forever, which is good, because you don't want to lose source code. That's a big deal if you do.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, sad story. What about you, Zach?
This is the first I've heard of it. I mean, it sucks. It's just people take games way too seriously. I mean, if a game comes out that you don't like, then you don't like it. Move on to the next thing. Get over it, But
it's like all these fandoms latch on. Like, yeah, gaming is really toxic in particular, but it's like even like anything. Like, I'm sure you've had experience dealing with like angry, Star Wars fans. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I knew exactly where you were going with that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's just honestly very shitty. Hopefully, this doesn't end up coming out, and more importantly, none of the personal information was, taken. Obviously, so far they don't believe any have. It was just a source code, so hopefully it was just that. But yeah, hopefully we don't hear about this. As Charlie said, hopefully this kind of just gets swept under the rug. The person that bought it just has it or something. Yeah, that's honestly the best situation at this point. Anyways, in other news, E3, as we come into a new year here in February, we're already like a few months out from, the usual time for the digital expo now. Obviously, E3 was something that didn't happen last year, given the state of the world. This year, it looks like E3 is planning to come into an online digital format. This was actually published by VGC, Video Game Chronicles. They say, according to E3 2021 pitch documents sent to game publishers and seen by VGC, the ESA have now outlined its proposals for this year's events, which would see 3 days of live stream coverage held during the previously announced dates of June 15 to the 17th. The ESA's intention is to hold multiple 2-hour keynote sessions from game partners, an award show, a June 14th preview night, and other smaller streams from game publishers, influencers, and media partners. The broadcast event would be supplemented by media previews the week before. This was always kind of something that happened the week before E3, where publishers would or journalists would get hands on these games before they are announced. As well as demos released on consumer platforms, according to ESA's proposal. It's also worth noting that Jeff Keighley has stated that he's not going to be involved with this, just like last year. He's going to be continuing his Summer Game Fest, which accordingly, based on last year's feedback, it spanned between May to August. It looks like Jeff is planning to condense that down to just a few weeks. So definitely interesting to see how E3 takes its form this year. I definitely think it opened a lot of publishers' eyes last year when they realized they don't need to spend millions of dollars on an E3, show floor presence, when they could just have their own kind of, live stream online that's, maybe not free, but not millions of dollars to, produce or reserve space for. So I honestly think that, the big players, they're just going to be doing what, they did last year. I think Sony will do their own kind of event. I think what we'll see here is maybe, people like Devolver possibly get involved, or smaller publishers that want to have that spotlight and be a part of one big show under one name. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, this is just kind of the pitch. This isn't official information that's out there for the public. So, yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on, the shape that E3 might come into this year?
I think it's interesting to see that they are even planning to do a digital event. That last year they didn't bother. They couldn't get it all kind of put together in time to actually run a digital E3. I don't really know what kind of form it would take this year. Like, would it all come under their own like website, or is it just going to be like a Twitch channel where they host these things? Because like, honestly, if I was a publisher in the situation where E3 contacted me, like, hey, give us this amount of money and we'll host your thing, I'd just straight up say no. Because what's the point when you can host it yourself, if you're, say, Sony, host the event yourself, and you've already got millions of people following you on Twitter and YouTube and Twitch, rather than going through the hassle of, paying to be on E3's platform, which is probably smaller. Like, sure, when it comes to the actual physical event, more people are probably going to think of E3, but when it's just online, I would imagine more people would just go to the actual publisher's place rather than E3 themselves. Like, there's not really a need for this bigger online event. You can just have all these things separately, which is basically Summer Games Fest. It was just a website that put them all on a calendar for you, and then you went to the separate pages to watch it. And I imagine that's what they would try and do with this E3 thing, but I guess we'll see. Yeah. I think this is kind of like the last straw for them anyway. Like, if this doesn't go well, I don't see E3 happening again, so.
Same here.
Yeah.
I know, Zach, yeah, you haven't been following
sort
this too much, but...
Yeah, and, I just... I don't follow gaming news as well, so I have less to say, which is fine. I just feel like E3 is turning into more and more of a thing of the past. Like, yeah, it's fun to get hyped up to see what new trailers they'll show and all that, but yeah, I don't know. All it is
nice
a bunch
to have
of advertisements for them.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's always been kind of like a glorified, advertisement. Like, obviously, for different people, it's different things, but that's what it was at the end of the day. Yeah, it's a lot. I don't know. Like, the gaming industry always tends to have these, weeks in May and June to announce a lot of the projects. It's not like you see the movie industry and obviously the TV show industry. It works very differently. You get these announcements somewhat, spread across the year, with the exceptions of if it's like comic related, you might see it at Comic-Con. But yeah, in terms of my opinion, like, obviously this thing needs to still be funded by publishers, which is why I'm kind of leaning towards this not really taking off. I feel like more people would rather side with Jeff, or, as Charlie said, like a big outlay like PlayStation, rather than these, through E3. I'm interested in seeing how this works out, and, if it does get backing, because this is, them trying to do something officially. Last year they just kind of didn't do anything, so it'll be interesting. I just don't see it taking off. Anyways, another big story that broke this week actually comes from Warner Brothers. They were managed to patent the Nemesis system, which was from Shadow of Mordor. This is a big deal because obviously a patent means that once you patent something successfully and you have it in, written documents, people that try to take that same concept or idea, you'll be protected under law because you have that patent available. So this has stirred quite a bit of, fuss in the gaming news in terms of, what this could potentially mean if game developers could patent, game features or gameplay mechanics. Obviously, Shadow of Mordor was a game that definitely was inspired by games like Assassin's Creed and Batman Arkham Asylum to begin with. So it's kind of interesting to see Warner Brothers get this patent available. On one hand, it makes sense that they'd want to have this, but on the other hand, this could lead to a very big, slippery slope where all of a sudden game mechanics can be locked away just because, a certain publisher has a patent for that feature, which could honestly stall growth in terms of game development if you can't, learn from others and kind of keep improving upon existing systems. So yeah, they have the patent. Who knows what that will mean for, the Nemesis system. I'm guessing if they do have that patent currently, no other, developer will be able to use something similar to that. Of course, they'd have to still go after them legally for that to take place. But it's interesting. It's kind of scary. Like, that's something that we haven't really dealt with in the gaming industry yet in terms of game features. Like, imagine if Telltale patent, game dialogue choices or something like that. Like, it's... Obviously, with something so primitive like that, you can't really do something like that. But, you take things like Portal, what if that got patented or something like that? It can be a very scary situation. Charlie, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, they've been trying to do this for years. I think they first tried to patent this back in, 2016, 2017, and they failed multiple times, but they finally managed to get a lawyer that was able to get it through. And it's a weird situation because, on one hand, I get it from a business point of view. You go, hey, we've got this really cool mechanic. If we can protect this, it means we're going to make a shitload of money. Because if people want to use this, they have to pay us loads of money or be published by us to even use it. And it sucks because there's so many like indie developers out there that take existing mechanics and things and are able to come up with better ideas or expand on these things and put them in their own games. But you can't do that anymore. Like if somebody was to come up with a better version of the Nemesis system, they wouldn't be able to do it unless they were, to pay Warner Brothers a load of money or partner up with them. And like this is the kind of first big example of this. That in the past there's been a few things like BioWare have got the patent for the dialogue wheel. So like in RPGs you can't have when you're picking dialogue options, you can't have a wheel to select them. It has to be like in a line. It's super weird, but
So
like
dumb.
only BioWare can do that. They patented that around when like Mass Effect 3 was
I
coming
didn't even
out.
realize that. That's dumb.
Yeah, that's like the only one like it, but that's such a small thing, because it's not the entire mechanic. You can still have dialogue options. It's just that specific version of dialogue options you can't have. Whereas this is literally an entire mechanic. So it's a big step up. I honestly don't know how they managed it. It's such a weird thing to be able to do. But I guess in the end they managed to twist it of the way like, oh, it's like an invention, It's our invention, like nobody else can make this, So yeah.
Which is dumb because, as you said, if someone comes up with an improved Nemesis system that can like improve upon that and like lead to growth, you literally can't just because they own the patent for that.
Yeah,
Just
it
dumb.
really in a way it makes sense to me because yes, they came up with it. It's their own creative thing that they've made, right? So in a way you would think, okay, it sort of makes sense for them to have the rights to do that, for no one else to be able to make money off their concept. But at the same time, it just seems like insane to me because you just think, okay, like back when Doom came out, Doom was revolutionary. It was sort of like the first person shooter. What if the creators of Doom had like patented first person shooters?
Dude,
Like,
imagine.
or like if Ubisoft patented open world games. It's like just insane. Like, do you think someone could make something similar but just not call it the Nemesis system and get by? Or would they be too
Well, that's what I was
afraid of being
thinking.
sued?
Like that's what I was saying. Like, obviously, you can create whatever you want. This is just something for like a commercial focus. So, like, I wonder what would happen. It's obviously for this to be enforced, they'd have to go after them legally. But still, like, yeah, like I'm trying to think, like, in terms of what Charlie said about the dialogue wheel. Like, you don't see that because obviously they patent that. So I wonder.
Yeah, I honestly
Yeah, I
haven't even
guess you
noticed
just
that.
can't do anything about it. Yeah, I guess so. It's crazy, honestly. I just think like obviously gaming, we're such a smaller industry compared to the film and TV. Like I feel like it's a lot smarter of a decision to create room for growth and for more people to get involved and create better content. Right? That while this is a smart move financially to cover you for like your creation, it halts a lot of progress that can be done. Because as you said, like what if Doom got a patent that could have held it to just ID working on first person shooters? You know how insane that would be. You want to have so many revolutionary games that have come out in the last few decades. So
The crazy thing with this is as well is that WB have hardly used it. Like they've
Yeah.
literally used the Nemesis system in 2 games. So like they've hardly touched the thing. There was a big rumor at one point that they were using it in a Batman game.
That's
that
what I was
got
gonna say.
cancelled.
Yeah.
The one at WB Montreal. There was a big rumor that was a thing for a long time. But as far as we know, it's not in like the new Batman game or Gotham Knight, sorry, or Suicide Squad. So I would imagine that there's probably going to be another Lord of the Rings game at some point, and they'll use it again. But like, yeah, they've literally used it in 2 games. It's such a weird thing.
Yeah, they're not like a big publisher that has so many games that can use this or something like that. Like it's just holding it to those series almost essentially, or whatever.
I don't
series
think has
they
there even
create.
been any other games that have used the system. Like it's one of those things where loads of publishers have talked about it, how amazing it is and stuff, but nobody's really ever used it other than them.
Yeah, that's true.
Which
Like
is
I
kinda
can't
odd.
think of a game, at least on the AAA side, that has used it. Maybe an indie developer has, but yeah, nothing truly that has been like huge. Maybe they haven't because they know that they've been trying to patent it. But who knows?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, so it's crazy. Hopefully this doesn't lead to more, publishers doing this because, yeah, as you said, that can halt a lot of progress in the game development scene and it's a scary future that possibly could turn into reality.
Definitely.
Anyways, another news story is Microsoft. Oh, do you have anything to say?
Oh, I was just saying, like, definitely.
Completely
agree with that.
In other news stories, Microsoft creates Vault to temporarily house Bethesda parent Zenimax inside. Obviously, Zenimax was recently bought by Microsoft as of last year. That includes all of Zenimax, subsidiaries in terms of, Bethesda and a bunch of other corporations like that. As we already know, they were purchased for $7.5 billion. Now, according to a document that was uploaded online, according to the European Commission's website, Microsoft intends to create a new home for ZeniMax within its business structure with the Vault moniker, a clear nod to the Fallout series. This is by way of Gamma Sutra, which is a popular website for their gaming, not only gaming journalists, but game developers. They go on to say that Microsoft acquires within the means of Article 3.1b of the merger regulation sole control of the whole of ZeniMax, reads the notification of concentration submitted to the European Commission. This is interesting because I feel like a lot of people don't know exactly what this entails. Obviously, this merge could be something that's just completely on the legal side. I personally am not of the belief that they're going to just get rid of the whole, Bethesda name, because that holds a lot of weight and value, especially to Bethesda fans. Vault could just be a legal name, just have them under the Vault umbrella. But they could honestly just go down, and call ZeniMax or Bethesda Microsoft Vault. Again, this isn't really something that's been made publicly in terms of what this exactly entails. They did update and say that the merger ends with Vault being closed and ZeniMax being the surviving company. So it does seem like, ZeniMax and Bethesda are going to keep their identity in this transaction. But just more updates on this transaction, which should be closing out here soon. I know they said they're going to be closing in the first half of
March, right?
2020. Yeah, March. So it's going to be interesting. Do you have any thoughts on this, or do you know any more information on this, Charlie?
It's a weird one because like they word it as if like they are gonna merge into this thing that is Vault. So you would take that as this is the new name, but then they also talk about that they're still gonna keep Bethesda and ZeniMax. So I wonder if maybe they're just gonna be like underneath the Vault there will be ZeniMax Online and id and Machine Games and Bethesda Studios, and then Vault will just be the title for all of those.
Yeah.
Because as far as we know, like even though Microsoft owns them, ZeniMax and stuff is still in charge of all those studios. Like they're basically still Bethesda. It's just that Microsoft own them. So it would make sense if Vault is going to be Microsoft's like terminology for those studios. It's just that within it will still be Bethesda and things. Which I think makes sense, like to have a big brand name to encompass them all. Because sure, like Bethesda works, but Bethesda in reality is only one of those studios. There's a lot of studios there that aren't part of the Bethesda name. And Vault, everyone knows the Vaults from Fallout, so it's a good name to use.
Yeah, it's a perfect name to use for them.
But hopefully we'll find out something soon. Because like I said, as far as I know, I think the plan is for it to close out next month at some point. They seem to be basically there, like they're not really having any trouble with it or anything, because both sides are basically in agreement. It's just waiting for all the contracts to go through and things. So we should hear more about this in the next few months. I'd imagine around E3 is when we get like official announcements of the merger and stuff. That'd be a good time to do all this kind of thing. So
it's huge. We still obviously don't know what the future will mean for games like The Elder Scrolls 6 or even Starfield. That's completely up to Microsoft, what they choose to do. Obviously, Deathloop and Ghost Tokyo are games that are going to be kind of in this transition period. PlayStation has already signed, exclusivity deals with them, timed exclusivity deals. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how this all changes and whether the Vault name does come out to the commercial side for people, looking at these games. I definitely think the Vault name is used, it'll be probably used alongside ZeniMax, not the subsidiaries of Bethesda and Machine Games and all that. But still pretty interesting. Any thoughts on this, Zach?
Honestly, I haven't even heard of Vault before now, so I'm good.
Vault is just a temporary name that they would use for what they would call them as, just because of Fallout. and all
Okay.
that.
Is that
So
for all of Bethesda or just like the development team that makes Elder Scrolls?
it's
and
more than just
Fallout?
Bethesda. It's all Zenimax. So Bethesda, and then
I haven't
all
really
of
heard
the
of
other
Zenimax.
companies. Zenimax. Yeah, it's sort of like a parent company. They're not on the commercial side of things. They kind of pull the strings above them and fund them.
Okay.
Machine Games, right, Charlie? They're also underneath Zenimax as well.
Yeah, so yeah, Machine Games, who did Wolfenstein.
And then there's also the
Id, who
developers
did
of Evil
Doom.
Within, right?
Evil Within, which is I can't
What's
even think what
yeah,
they're
what's
called.
I'm gonna look that up.
It's completely gone from my head.
Tango Gameworks, that's right.
There you go. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit more than just Bethesda. But yeah, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that all changes out within the next, even months really, as it's still closed. And as Charlie said, we might see something at E3 and we might not. Who knows?
Yeah.
A cool news story. Yeah. A cool news story. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Microsoft, because they have some sort of partnership with Bethesda, right?
Yeah, so Microsoft bought Bethesda last year, so they completely own them. It was a big
I'm
deal
just
because
completely out of the loop.
yeah. So for those wondering, Zach is trying to stay off of social media and gaming news, which honestly is a pretty smart decision. A lot of it is just filler crap anyway. But yeah, they bought them last. I want to say it was in the fall time, maybe September, around that area. They bought them for $7.5 billion, so they were going to be completely owning them and their future products that they make. So they completely own, the creations that Bethesda make, Tango Gameworks, Machine Games, and I'm sure a few more that Zenimax own as well. So yeah, pretty much all future Bethesda games are going to be, they can be Xbox exclusive if they want to. It's just going to be up to them. So yeah.
Okay.
It'll be interesting.
Hopefully not Xbox, so that they can be played on PC. But
yeah, well, they're going to be on PC for sure because Xbox has put other games on PC. We just don't know if they're going to come to PlayStation as well because obviously, Microsoft owns, Minecraft and that still comes out to PlayStation as well. It just chooses whether they want to, make it like an incentive for you to own an Xbox system or a PC, or if they want to, get those sales off of PlayStation as well. So there's two, smart plans obviously alongside them. You can either try to make more hardware sales or you can distribute it to your, competitor, I guess, but you also make a lot more money because it's on that platform. So I'm sure we'll figure out whatever they choose to do later this year if, the rumors of Starfield launching this year are true. So it'll be interesting. And yep. Anyways, another big story that broke this week is actually pretty exciting for me. Crash 4 is going to be coming to the next generation systems and Switch. So PS5, Xbox Series X, and Switch. I'm surprised they didn't announce this before the game came out. A lot of people were wondering, but they just kind of were tight-lipped about that. This week they broke silence on that. It's actually going to be a free update for existing PS4 and Xbox One owners coming out on March 12th. For those of you that don't have the game, it will be, I believe, $40 on Switch. And yeah, I essentially believe it's probably going to be the same amount of pricing on PS5 or Xbox Series X.
It's $60.
So
on
it's going to be the
PS5
same price as essentially it was on the PS4, with the Switch version being $40. No idea why. I'm guessing just because they're more powerful and you get extra benefits with the next generation systems. That's why there's a $20 gap there. But yeah, again, that's going to be coming out a month from now, literally a month from today. March 12th.
I was gonna say, annoyingly, it has actually gone up in price over here because they've done the whole where it's the same price in pounds as it is dollars.
So they did the same thing as PlayStation
over here. Yeah.
Oh my god.
So it's gone up a bit over here and in Europe, but it's the same in the US. But
and they said PC later in 2021. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, PC as well. Yeah, like you said.
PC.
And that's going to be through Battle.net. So sadly, it won't be coming to Steam like the Insane Trilogy. You'll have the Battle.net launcher.
Honestly, I didn't even know that the Insane Trilogy was on PC. I'll have to
it's on Steam.
get it on PC now.
Yeah. I know, yeah. You definitely got to try Crash. It's definitely a great
I think it's got mod
games.
support as well on PC.
Yeah, and you get 60 FPS, which I don't think any of the other systems, maybe the PS5 and back compat does 60 FPS, but I'm not even sure about that.
It's locked at 30, isn't it? So
yeah, you're going to get the best version on PC. Crash 4, I believe, did get like some enhancements natively, but obviously this free upgrade will smooth things out and obviously increase the resolution as well. And they said even that they're going to be doing some cool things with like the triggers. The game uses triggers to transition Crash from either wearing a mask or taking it off. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. I'm glad I waited because I beat the game right on PS4. It was like my last game I played on PS4 before I got the PS5. But I kind of saved myself from going for the platinum because I just couldn't really be asked, download it. And I was also kind of hoping they would do some kind of next-gen version. And here it is. It's also coming sooner than I thought, so can't really knock that. I think it's also coming out at the perfect time because we already know that there's a lot of games coming out in May and April. So March is getting some love as well next to, Joseph Ferris's game, It Takes Two. And yeah, it's going to be nice. Any thoughts on this? I know, Zach, you're probably going to pick it up on PC, I imagine, since you seem to be going over there more and more lately.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It Takes Two. I'm going to be streaming it with my cousin, actually.
Nice. And what about Crash 4?
Oh, Crash 4. I don't know which one you're asking about, but yeah, Crash 4.
Both is fine, yeah.
I'll definitely want to play the first three first, but yeah, I'll play it at some point. It looks like a really fun game. Good, fast gameplay, difficult, all that.
It's probably the most difficult Crash game. Definitely in my experience. I think it's harder than the first three, for sure. And then Charlie, have you played Crash 4? You played Crash 4, right?
Yeah, so I got Crash 4 shortly after launch, and I want to say I beat like the first two like worlds. I don't think it's very far in the game, I'll be honest. I don't think I got very far, which I'm kind of glad
because now you get the best experience, yeah.
Yeah, I've been tempted to install it on PS5, but I've been holding off in case they did announce a next gen upgrade, and then literally this week they did, so I'll wait a little bit more to play it, and then I'll be able to take full advantage of it on PS5, because I think currently it's locked at 1080p 60. It just basically caps it at 60, whereas this is going to be 4K 60, and obviously take advantage of the DualSense and stuff, so that'd be
Should
cool.
be sweet. It also reminds me that we're still waiting on the Avengers next generation. I bought that game because I was planning on playing
about
it.
that next week.
We are?
Yeah, so they've got the Avengers War Table happening next week, where they talk about the Hawkeye DLC, which is meant to be out soon, and alongside that, they've said they're gonna show off the new next gen update. So I would imagine that will come out the same day as this Hawkeye update. So next week, when we're filming this, we should.
I didn't even hear about that. What the hell? That shows how that game's state is, I guess.
Yeah.
Goddamn. Hopefully it's cool though, and I'm sure we'll talk about it next week. I guess I'll let you introduce this next news story because you put this on here, and I heard a bit about it, but I don't know completely what's going on, so I'll let you introduce it.
Yeah, so 6 Days in Fallujah is coming back after 11 years since its first announcement. Basically, this was originally a third-person military shooter set during the Iraq War that was going to be published by Konami. Was inevitably cancelled due to the fact that there was a lot of people that were against the game. Rightfully so. It was announced very shortly after the Iraq War was still, in the news and in people's minds. And so a lot of people didn't like the idea of having a game that puts you there. So it got cancelled, or at least put on hold. And then so I'm looking here. Apparently, it was on hold until 2016, which is when the original developers went bankrupt. So then, since then, this IP's been given to a new studio, which is being headed up by developers on Halo, I believe. I'm having a quick look here. Where does it say it? So yeah, former Halo and Destiny makers, and also some of the people from the original studio, I think, are working on it. But instead of being third person, it's now like a first person military sim type shooter. And they've said that they're trying to capture, the actual event, and they've got over like 100 Marines and stuff to actually talk about it, and they've got documentary and interview footage within the game. And it's meant to be coming out this year, so it's coming out on PC and consoles this year. So hopefully we'll see something from it soon. I'm really interested to see how it turns out. I do really like military sim type shooters. I find them quite enjoyable. As far as I know, this is like a single player experience. It's not online or anything. We don't get a ton of single player sort of military shooters. So I'm excited to see how this turns out. I know there has been a little bit of backlash on Twitter that this is back. Nowhere near as much as the original.
People complaining online. What?
I know, right? And I get it to an extent. This is still like, even though it was 15 years ago now, it's still recent compared to other events. So I totally understand why people are a bit against it. But I'm interested to see how it turns out, and if it's a good game, then I'll definitely check it out. Hopefully we'll see something soon, since it is meant to be this year. So
sure, yeah, I don't really have many thoughts on it, but I'm definitely interested in seeing how this turned out, especially considering it was a game that was talked about like I think over a decade ago, which is crazy. So hopefully it turns out great, and hopefully it's good. And yeah. Anyways, I'm guessing you don't know anything about that, Zach, so we'll probably just move on, right?
Yeah.
For sure. Anyways, you'll probably know a lot about this next game here. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart just finally got a release date for June 11th, 2021. Alongside this, there was also an announcement on pre-order bonuses, the deluxe edition, and we got some new cover art for the game, as well as the box art. So, a lot of cool Ratchet & Clank news. Nothing in terms of like new information or gameplay or anything like that. It was just, strictly, the additions. You can now pre-order the game on PS5. Just mainly just the date was the big one. Exciting. I think it's a little bit later than most people thought, just because it is past that 6-month window. But it's pretty much, within a month after that, like it's close enough. Interestingly enough, we don't really see Sony drop many games around this time period. There was Last of Us Part 2 last year on, I believe, like June 18th, right around that time. So it's nice to see that Sony is going towards summer dates. Maybe they saw that, Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost sold really well last year in the summer, so who knows, maybe we'll finally see them tackle the summer of this generation more, which would be really cool. Yeah, I'm stoked about the date. That's a perfect time for me. I'll be out of college and into summer, so I'll be able to enjoy that game with relatively amount of, free time. So yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on that and the date and the cover art?
I'm looking forward to it. Sorry, I don't know if you want to go first,
you can
Charlie.
Go.
No, it's all good.
So, it looks like a really fun game. I haven't played many of the previous games in the series. I played some of the most recent one, which was like based on the movie.
Yeah.
I played like half of it. It was really fun. I don't know why I didn't finish it. Just didn't feel like it for some reason. But yeah, looking forward to it. I really like how they have the whole Rifts gameplay with going into like different realities. That just looks really fun and crazy. So yeah, definitely looking
seems
forward
to be
it.
using SSD. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sure. Should be pretty cool. I think this is definitely probably the biggest, the first big PS5 exclusive. What about you, Charlie?
Yeah, I'm super excited for it. I signed up for PS Now again, so I can play through Quest for Booty and Crack in Time and Nexus, because I haven't played those ones. Funnily enough, I was gonna replay Tools of Destruction, but it's not on PS Now. I don't really know why. But yeah, so I've recently been jumping back into those, so I'm super excited about it. I am again, obviously it got announced that it is going to be £70 and $70, which we should have expected, but it's still crazy that is the price of these games now. So I hope it is lengthy. Ratchet's never really been the longest of games, so I really am looking forward to the game, but when you see that £70 price tag, it really puts you off. I went to pre-order it just to pre-order my physical copy, and I decided not to. I was like, I'm just gonna wait.
Have that money in your account, because that's
I'm gonna just wait till a few weeks before, because it is it's a lot of money, and I totally get it for the really big games that are gonna God of War and Horizon, because I know those games are gonna be lengthy as well. But when it comes to stuff like Ratchet and Clank, I can't imagine it's gonna be like more than 15, 20 hours at most, right?
That's giving it generous. I don't even think there's been
Yeah,
like a Ratchet
I know.
game that's been that long.
Yeah.
I imagine it's going to be longer because it looks like it's a big game.
I hope so.
But yeah, I don't know. It's a shame that all the games have to be in that price tag, especially when the last Ratchet game wasn't a full price game. Because it was tied to the movie, it was $50 or £40. It might have actually been $40.
I'm very glad you mentioned that. I remember that specifically and Act 2 both came out at $40 that year.
Yeah.
Or Act 2 was the year later. But I was like, I remember specifically commenting that in like one of my videos saying like, I want to see games change pricing and not always stick to $60 if they don't need to be. So it's kind of ironic to see this game that was like a $40 great, value game now be one of the most expensive games on the PS5.
Yeah, and I get why that game was at that price tag. It was a remake of the original, and it was connected to the film, so it wasn't like a full release, but it was still a big game. It wasn't like a small game or anything. They put a lot of time, and it looked great and played great. So I wonder if it is because it's in this launch year. If this game was to come out, say, 3 years down the line, would it still be £70? Would it have been a cheaper game? So I do hope that eventually they start going to the lower price point, at least to the point of Sackboy and Miles, even though they were cross-platform. I would imagine that means Horizon's also going to be $60 still, because that is coming out on PS4. But yeah, it's a lot of money, but I'm still excited for the game. So
also,
I'm still very go ahead.
I didn't know exactly how much pounds were versus dollars, and that's actually insane. It's like almost $100 if you were to convert it evenly.
Yeah.
Wow. They definitely didn't convert it properly. Like, obviously games got an increase in pricing as they did, but they didn't correctly, evaluate that for, pounds. So it's like you're getting this increase in price and you're also like losing a bit of that conversion that made it all equal. So it's
because normally we're a little bit lower. So like last gen, your games were $60. For us, it was like $49.99, so £50.
But now it's £70.
Yeah, and like it's gone up in euros as well. So it's like €90. I think it's 90 Canadian as well, right? I think Justin was saying that games are like $89.99. So it's a lot of money to put towards a game. Like you have to be sure that you want that game.
Like I'm trying to think,
it's an investment.
Like I was as a kid, like it was already hard enough to save up $60 when I didn't have a job, right? Yeah. Like I can't even imagine being a kid in this next generation, like wanting these big games that are like, especially if you're in the UK, like holy shit, like you're saving up $100 just for one game. You better hope that game's good.
Yeah, that's literally like, I'm trying to think based on my wages how many hours I would have to work for that. That's like over a day's work, like
really?
Just to get Ratchet Clank. Like that's
holy
a lot.
Shit.
That's a lot of money,
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
Yeah,
definitely. As I was gonna say, like in terms of the game itself, I'm still like I'm really hopeful for this game, but I'm also very hesitant just because it's coming off of one of the worst written games in my opinion. I don't like the 2016 one in terms of how they wrote Ratchet and Clank, because the original game was always that they didn't like each other at first. They were very hesitant about each other, and the game was about them slowly liking each other and seeing eye to eye by the end of the game. In the first one, like in the remake, it's like they're all like these fuzzy characters, like, oh hey, let's go on this adventure together. It's like, no, this is not Ratchet and Clank. So it does interest me more that this is finally going back to continuing off of the future games back on the PS3. I'm still hesitant. I really hope we get a state of play soon. They kind of tease it at the very end that they're going to be hearing about it soon, and with the female Lombax's name. We've only like really seen one planet of gameplay. So yeah, exactly. We think it's Rose or Rosie. But yeah, we've only seen one planet of gameplay so far. Like they do that like kind of set piece, right? But obviously you're not spending a lot of time there. So who knows how many actual planets and how big this game is. Hopefully it is big if they're charging this much. I don't even care about the charging price. I just want this game to be good as a Ratchet and Clank fan. So June 11th, hopefully the game's good, and hopefully we get a state of play soon. Any closing thoughts before we move on to another big story?
All good here?
No, I'm good.
Sounds good. Anyways, the Last of Us HBO show finally got official casting. It was a wild day on Wednesday because it started off with like with the rumored casting of Mashhad Ali, right? Who's going to be playing Joel. That ended up being debunked literally within hours after that announcement came out, or that rumor announcement. It ended up getting confirmed that Bella Ramsey is going to be playing Ellie first. She's known for Game of Thrones. I don't watch Game of Thrones, but I know a lot of people say she's really good in that. She also looks the part. She's, I believe, 17, so she looks like she's going to fit the role quite nice. A lot of people, whenever they mention who they want Ellie to be played as, that actress already looks like she could play Ellie from part 2, in my opinion. So, It's nice to have a young girl that's going to play a 14-year-old. Alongside this, Pedro Pascal, who plays, Mando in The Mandalorian, he's going to be playing Joel, which I think is an excellent casting, which I didn't even really think about until, it was announced, and I can totally see it. So I'm personally pretty stoked about the casting. Obviously, this show in general is going to be a retelling of the original game, so you could argue that this is more for, getting audiences that don't play games into the story. I'm still going to watch it. It still catches my eye. I'm hopeful considering that Neil Druckmann and is going to be involved in this project, and a lot of good directors and writers are on board. So cool casting all around. What do you guys think about Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey being cast as leading roles there?
I'm super excited about it. Like Bella Ramsey, she's not in Game of Thrones that much, but from when she is in it, she's a good character. She can show a lot of emotion in some of the later episodes she's in, so I'm excited to see what she does with the role. That was a few years ago now, so she is a little bit older, so I don't know what she's done in between that. As for Pedro Pascal, I love a lot of the stuff he was in. Obviously Mando,
He's
I
in
loved
Wonder
him
Woman, right?
in Kingsman 2. Yeah, he's like the only good thing about the new Wonder Woman film. And funnily enough, I've seen it loads on Twitter, but all his roles from the past year or two are single dads. That's literally all he plays now.
It's funny because if you
really
consider
funny.
Mando and now Last of Us, he's now an escorter guy.
Yeah,
He's really playing a similar role, but he plays it perfectly in Mandalorian. So I'm really stoked about it.
I have more to add to his being typecast. There is you guys probably haven't seen it, but there was a movie called Prospect. It came out a few years before The Mandalorian. I'm guessing that's how he got scouted out for the role. But in Prospect, it's a sci-fi western where he plays a guy who has to look after this girl who isn't his daughter, and minor spoilers, but by the end of the movie she's like a daughter to him. So I'm like,
Okay.
yep. And by the way, Prospect, great movie. Highly recommend it.
I'll add to the list.
I've heard people talk about it on Twitter, and I hadn't heard the film before, so I'll have to watch it. Because quite a few people were going on about it online.
It's also great that we have you on this week because you being a big Star Wars fan.
Yeah,
It's kind of some tie to it, I guess, this week. So
Ellie's the new baby
worked
Yoda.
out. Exactly.
But yeah,
I think Deadline broke this article, and they had a bit more information. They just said that given Pedro Pascal's role in Mandalorian, given that he's not always taking off his helmet, he's not needed as much in that show. So apparently he became free on the market, and a lot of big names have been kind of offering him offers, and he chose this one in particular. So that's pretty interesting.
well, I know they're filming the Book of Boba Fett before Mando season 3, so it could just be that.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. That's an opening as well.
For me, when it comes to a Last of Us TV show, I would have rather them told a new story in the same universe if they were gonna do that, because I don't like the concept of retelling the story from the game for audiences who aren't gamers, because I feel like it's fine for it to just be a video game story, and it's almost like they're trying to justify the worth of video games to people who don't play them, and that's what rubs me wrong about it. But since Neil Druckmann is writing it, it'll probably be good, so I'll probably watch it.
I know they said that it's going to be the same story as the first game, right? But
Yeah.
I wonder how
I imagine it's going to
much liberty they're going to take. Yeah, I wonder like how much, like I know they were throwing around that possibly they're going to have like different locations than they did in the first game. So we might see different cities than they visited. Like maybe there won't be a Pittsburgh, maybe there'll be some other, city that they go to.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how they choose to tackle that, because I'd like to see, possibly like the moments that we didn't see. Obviously there's a lot of time jumps in The Last of Us, the first one. So it's like we could be seeing the events of the first game, but we could also be seeing stuff that was in those, time jumps that we didn't see, because obviously, it's a game and they couldn't have everything of that whole trek across the United States. So
yeah, and then
who knows?
Part of me wonders if they'll like introduce Abby in season 1 and show what she was doing during the plot of the first game, so that people know who she is. Maybe they would be more on board with what happens in season 2 if they already knew her.
That's a good point.
I don't know. Just an idea that I had.
Yeah, like overall, I don't know how they're like planning to tell the whole thing, because it depends how long this season is. But I would imagine it's short.
I
mainly
think
because
they said
like
10 episodes, but I don't think that's
yeah,
official.
because like Craig Mazin did Chernobyl, and that was like 6 episodes, I think. I want to say like 6-7 episodes. And like they're probably going to be like an hour long each, similar to Game of Thrones and most HBO shows. So they're going to have, like 10 hours of footage. And, like, if you think about how long Last of Us 1 is, like, it's probably, 12 to 15 hours.
I mean, some of that is the gameplay, but
and obviously, so a lot of that's going to be gameplay. But, like, if they're going to expand on it, like, they're going to be pushed for time if they're telling the entire story in that single season. So I wonder if they are. Because as far as we know, they've announced this as like a limited series, right? It's not like a full-on original show or anything.
I wonder how, like, will they end season 1 the same way they ended the first game? Like, they don't exactly need to end on the same parts. They even said that, like, they might incorporate elements of part 2 in the first one in terms of, like, maybe the museum or something like that. Who knows? Like, yeah. I do agree with Zach in the fact that, I think it was like a few podcast episodes ago I mentioned how they're, like, the world of The Last of Us is so big that you can have like games that are not, Joel and Ellie's story that could still be in that world. It would be cool to still, see this world come into, HBO or some high quality, format like this in television, but not exactly, retell something we already know. It'll be interesting. Like, I know Pedro Pascal will probably knock it out of the park, but.
Oh yeah. And so I actually just like counted off like on my fingers how many sort of like sections or like chapters there are in The Last of Us, and there's like 8. So if they adapt it like very closely to the game, then I would think there'd be like 8 episodes.
Yeah. Who knows? It'll be interesting to see how they divide it among the episodes and what they choose to keep and what they choose to cut.
Got to keep David.
I was about to say that actually, and Tess and Bill.
Winter's like. Well,
honestly,
winter and spring are the best parts of the game for me, the last 2 parts.
Yeah. Definitely. I want to replay Last of Us now, just before the show. Do we know when the show's coming out? Like, they're definitely moving pretty quickly on it now.
It'll be next year, right? Because I feel like they'll probably end up filming it over the summer, because I think they'd written quite a few of the scripts sort of coming to the end of last year. Like I think they showed like an image of the pilot, right, of the front of the script. So like I imagine they're going into production pretty soon here if they're announcing cast and stuff.
Damn. So 2022 might bring the Uncharted movie and the Last of Us HBO show.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And to be honest, I'm one of the people that has been on board with this stuff from day one. Like, there's so many people that are so against this stuff, and I totally get it. But at the same time, like, it introduces more people to these things, and I think there's space to do these stories in both film and games without ruining one or the other.
That's what people think it will ruin it. For me, it's like, if it's bad, I just won't think about it. Like, I'll just, like, the games are always going to be there. They're always going to exist. This can have a chance to be good. Like,
I feel like the Uncharted movie has a bigger chance of flopping than the show does, mainly because the film...
The talent involved as well.
Yeah, like, the film doesn't have anybody really involved from the games whatsoever. Like, Naughty Dog, I believe, are, like, executively producing the film, but they have, like, nothing to do with it other than Neil was on a Zoom call or whatever when they were on set, and Nolan North flew out there or whatever. So, like, other than that, there's not really anything connecting the two, whereas Neil is a big part of the show. You know, he's co-writing it, he is a producer.
Not to mention the main creator has loved the game, so he's going to want to pay respect
a big fan
to
of
it.
Last of Us. I don't know too much about the director, but from what people have said, he's done a lot of cool stuff. I think he's mainly a Russian director.
That's on the pilot director, right? Because I'm sure they're going to have like different directors.
Yeah, I would imagine they'll have different ones for the other episodes, but yeah, he's directing the pilot and probably
the pilot will be good to see that first beginning 30 minutes of The Last of Us. I wonder, that might be like a full episode, who knows? That'd be cool.
Oh, if like
I'm honestly really excited for the show.
Just like back with Sarah, that would be crazy.
Yeah, we got to get Sarah casting and Tommy casting. Ooh, they can't script Tommy. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm more excited for the HBO show just because obviously the talent involved. I feel like it definitely has a lot of better potential of it being good. The one good thing about the Uncharted movie though is that it is, you know, a prequel, so it's not like they're tackling modern day Nathan Drake. Like, you're not gonna have the issue that you're gonna have with the HBO show where you're gonna see Joel and Ellie look the same age, but they're not gonna sound like they do in the games. That's one thing that the Uncharted movie has going for it, but besides that, everything else looks like it's going The Last of Us's way.
So for the Uncharted movie, is that sort of meant to be canon with the games, or is it like its own thing?
I don't know. Like, who determines what's canon? Like, it's like, does Naughty Dog come out and say, "Oh, it's gonna be canon"? I imagine it's like technically not because Naughty Dog didn't write it, right? But like, it's meant to be, you know, showing what happened early in the days. I'm sure if you're gonna like talk to the producers, we're like, "Oh yeah, it's canon, right?" But like,
yeah, but then they could
I'll determine whether it's canon after I watch it.
That doesn't fit in with the game story, and yeah.
So. The thing about that game is, like, based on that one picture of Tom Holland, it looks like they're trying to tackle Nathan Drake already with like his epic set pieces and like being a badass, right? But the thing is, Drake's Fortune was like, well, I guess if you want to count Golden Abyss, like those were his beginning adventures technically. Like, as a kid, they did some cool stuff, but it wasn't as like big as these, you know, Uncharted games were. Like, when Sam comes back in Uncharted 4, he mentions the first 3 games because that's, you know, what's been happening. Like, it's not like he did some crazy shit that we didn't see. I mean, unless he did, and they're gonna like retcon that, I guess, or something like that. But that's my biggest issue with that, is just because, I don't know.
I'm almost certain that I won't like that movie. I think it'll be nothing we haven't seen before in other similar genre movies and stuff.
It's good that Tom Holland played the games and he talked to Nolan North, but I'm still not sure. Like, there's a lot more pieces where that could fall.
The bit
Mark
where that
Wahlberg
roast me is he was like, "I played Uncharted 4. We're taking a lot from Uncharted 4," and I'm like,
"Yeah, that's what I was."
The last game in the series where he's much older and married.
Yeah. Unless we're talking about the flashbacks at the, you know, when he takes on the Nathan Drake name. I wonder if Sam will be in that movie. That would be interesting.
That would be kind of
because obviously he wasn't in the games, because I'm sure Sam wasn't a character back then. They created him for Uncharted 4, so it'll be interesting. My biggest thing is Mark Wahlberg as Sully. Like, Sully's so iconic with his voice, like just as much as Nate. Like, seeing Mark Wahlberg as Sully is gonna feel weird
for sure. Wasn't he rumored to be cast at Drake like way back in the day?
That's the thing. Like, a decade ago, he was meant to be Nate, and this movie has taken so long to come out that he's now Sully.
That he got old enough to play Sully. That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully both of these, you know, shows and movies end up well, and that's like the best situation. If not, hey, the games always exist. It's not like they're gonna ruin anything. Yeah. I guess some fans are gonna be like, "Oh, Tom Holland, isn't he Nate?" or something like that.
Childhood ruined.
If it's bad, just think of that Prince of Persia film that came out. Nobody remembers that. We don't talk about it. It's all good.
Because we don't even remember Prince of Persia as a game series. Am I right?
Yeah.
Whoa. Let's calm down.
Hey, I'm speaking on behalf of Ubisoft, not me. And Splinter Cell as well. Gotta mention that. Anyways, we still have another big story to talk about, and that is Little Nightmares 2. All 3 of us have beaten this game within the last day or two. Game really came out yesterday. And, I mean, it's not the longest game, right? But I guess we'll start with our background with Little Nightmares, because I just recently played the game this week. Not even this year, this week. I know Charlie, you played it years ago when it first came out. What about you, Zach? When did you play Little Nightmares 1?
I'm in a similar situation as you. I played it for the first time a few months ago.
Okay, cool.
And
so I guess we all have different
I
perspectives.
played the DLC as well.
Yeah, same here. I think we all played the DLC as well, so we literally have the full experience of this series, which is cool.
Well,
I'm not.
There's a mobile game, yeah. I haven't played it.
Oh, yeah, I guess, but like by the devs, right? Tarsier Studios.
Yeah.
I guess you could say. I'm not sure how we want to start this. Obviously, we don't want to get through spoilers for those watching. I mean, I guess we could talk about spoilers and just have like a time code, but like, how do you guys want to tackle this?
I feel like
talk about spoilers?
you don't really need to talk about spoilers with this game. That's how I feel.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll just talk about our experiences with the game. I guess if you want to just go over your experience with Little Nightmares 2 and how you think about the game compared to the first one. Just kind of give you a review of it, I guess. Start with you, Zach.
Oh, yeah, sure. So I thought it was a masterpiece. It's the best game I've played this generation. It's also the only game I played this generation, so that doesn't mean
I was about
much.
to say,
whoa. But yeah, it's just I really love video games where the story isn't necessarily obvious, where it's more like tied to the gameplay, because it feels more like something that could only be told in a video game. And in terms of gameplay, just like puzzles, the slight amount of combat in it, like it was just really thoughtfully designed, well made. Pacing was perfect. I never felt bored. The game wasn't too long. I don't like how long a lot of modern games are, so I liked having nice 6-hour game. It was 6 hours for me. But yeah, I thought it was great.
Right, Charlie?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a big improvement over the first one. I guess I'll quickly talk about the first one. Like, I played it back when it came out, and I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was like amazing or anything. I thought it was way too short. Like it was, I think it took me like 2.5, 3 hours to beat. And for me, that was just a little bit too short for how much they were charging at the time. And then the DLC I played last month, so I bought that on sale. And I really enjoyed the DLC. In a lot of ways, I thought it was better than the main game. I found a lot of the sections a bit more challenging, a bit more fun to play through. And then the second one, I think overall is just better in most ways. It expands upon the gameplay quite a bit. Like the combat is added into the game. But I will agree with Brandon, it's pretty trash. And it's not the fault of the gameplay itself, it's more the camera. And it's just, there's no way of really judging the depth. So if you're trying to hit someone that's further back, and you're trying to like hit them face on, it's so difficult like to tell when you're going to hit. And for you, it looks like you've hit him in the face, but then he just jumps on you and you die and you spawn back at a checkpoint. And you have to jump over a wall and then grab the thing. And you end up like I was watching Brandon stream yesterday, and I think you did it like probably like 10, 20 times. And I had a similar situation when I played it. Like, it's clearly a big problem that they would have seen when they were testing the game. But it's just one of those things with the camera. It's really hard to avoid that. But other than that, I thought it was pretty good. Again, the story is very vague. It's very much left for you to kind of take your own interpretation and discuss with people. And I'm sure we will eventually. Once more people have played, we can talk about that stuff. But yeah, overall, I really liked it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I played all of it this week. So all of this, what I played of, the first game, the DLC, and 2 is like all fresh in my head. I think 2 is really short. I also think it kind of drags on in some parts. It's a really cool first experience. I do agree with Charlie. I think the DLC is better in a lot of ways. I do think there's aspects of the DLC that I don't like, where you're like staying in one area and you gotta like go to these other rooms and bring stuff back in. I kind of like the path where you just keep going and like exploring new areas constantly. Besides that, the first and the DLC were pretty cool. I'd probably like say they're good games. They're not great or anything like that, but they're pretty good games. With 2, I thought it was a great game. I thought they definitely stepped up in a lot of ways. The biggest thing for me was the locations. In the first one, obviously, I guess I'm not trying to spoil it too much, but you're in this one area, right, throughout the main game, and you go to like different parts of this one area, but you're largely in one area. This one takes you outside. You're going to, it's like, it feels like an adventure. Like, it feels like you're doing a lot, and you're meeting new characters in terms of like these different areas that you're going to, which just felt more of an experience for me in this game. I like the idea that you're playing alongside a companion. That was really cool. I was kind of questioning it at first. I think like literally my first 30 minutes, I was like, why isn't this game co-op? By the end of the game, I'm kind of happy it wasn't co-op. I don't know. I feel like they still could have done it, but I was happy with my experience. My big thing about the game is it's also alongside the first game, like a complaint I have. And that's just like a lot of times you die in this game by learning. Like you'll be doing a section of the game where you're getting chased, right? And then you'll die by something stupid, and then you just gotta replay it knowing that that's gonna happen. And I get that. Obviously, you know, games being an interactive medium, you can replay things and start over again, but it kind of takes you out of the immersion of the story when like these epic moments are happening or these pivotal parts of the game and you just die. The combat, as Charlie was going on about, that don't get me started on that. That was frustrating as hell, and probably was like my least favorite part of that game when it wasn't working. But ultimately, it was a big step up from the first one, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. Yeah, it's definitely a great game, and if you haven't played it, I definitely do recommend trying out the first one. It is a standalone game. You don't need to play the first one, but I do recommend playing the first one before this. I enjoyed it quite a bit, so.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is it fine if I respond to some of the criticisms that you guys had of it?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, because like I really didn't have any major problems with the game, and you guys were saying that the combat was an issue. I had the same issues where, you know, you're swinging a spoon or a hammer or something at one of the enemies, and it's hard to judge the depth because it's, you know, it's like a 2.5D platformer.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit problematic, but to me, like, it didn't happen that often. It was just once in a while, and then I would just replay it. It was fine to me. Because, like, I think it would be a bigger issue for me if combat was, like, a big focus of the game, but it's not. It's a puzzle game, and I think the combat fit in really well with just being a type of puzzle in which to solve the puzzle, you just have to pick up this thing and swing it at someone. So for me, it really didn't bother me all that much.
I mean, yeah, I could see that, but like there was literally, like, if you go on my stream, there's like a segment where I was like on this one part for 10 minutes, and it was just
really
BS. Yeah, it was just I don't know, like I just don't understand how you like playtest this game and like you see a lot of people dying in this one area, because Charlie said he also had like issues in that one spot.
I think the other thing as well, and this is like from both the first game DLC and 2, and me and Brandon, I know we've talked about this, where like you overthink puzzles. We overthink it way too much. Like there's like when I streamed the beginning of the game, there's literally a section, like I want to say like half an hour in, and I was stuck in this area for like a good 10 minutes because I was like, how the hell do I do this thing? I see this light, I feel like I'm meant to shine something at this light, and then all it was, you had to throw this block at the painting and then it falls down. Like, it's such a simple thing, but I'm so used to playing other puzzle games where they have all these complex things.
Or they have like, they color code puzzles, so like if you see something, you know, like you inherently know and like subconsciously like can recognize that. A lot of the times environments looked all the same, so like you'll have to like they do a good job at like making, like I feel like it's a way better job in this game than the first one in terms of what you can climb. I know Zach, you said you were stuck in that trash area in the first one, because like how would you know you're supposed to climb those walls? You said you were stuck in like 10 minutes in that part. They do a lot better of a job, but they still need to kind of like, I don't know, color code a bit more, or at least do something a bit better. They do a good job though in terms of like cages. Obviously, you know, you can climb that because they're vertical lines and horizontal lines. More stuff, like more of that stuff would be nice in terms of the puzzle design. Yeah. Because you never, when do you ever throw an item at a wall to make something fall down and that uncovers, like, you always peel off a vent or you do something to lift someone up to go to a doorknob. Like, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a minor thing, but it can add up to the experience, I guess.
For me, something that made it better than the first game was I got stuck less often. I probably got stuck. I mean, there's really only one puzzle where I got stuck like really bad on it. And And other than that, it was like mostly smooth sailing. It's just kind of trial and error.
Yeah.
You guys said you kind of didn't like how you have to fail and die to figure things out. For me, that's just
in
the game,
in certain parts. Like I like in the scripted parts where you're getting chased.
Yeah,
like a lot of times, and if I die and then I have to rewatch that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That stuff. But in terms of like the actual puzzles, like the TV sections, I really like that near the end of the game. That was cool. And like trial and error, and that's no sequences where you gotta come up and these solutions, right? In terms of these like open environments and figure it out. That stuff I don't mind trial and error. It's just when it's like
the
even
the
in
chase...
like I won't spoil it, but like even in the end when you have to whack the thing, like I kept dying on that one part.
I died a lot too, but
like,
I had fun doing it.
Yeah, but yeah. In certain
my
parts of
main
that
thing
game.
with like the trial and error stuff is I don't mind it when it's like the combat stuff too much, but when it's like the chase things, it's almost impossible to do those first try because your character will always like very slightly trip up or jump over a thing slightly too wrong, and then you slow down for a second and suddenly you get squished by something.
Yeah, that's true.
And that happens at nearly every chase. And for me, like that just takes me out of the whole thing because I'm like, I'm into this chase thing and I fail it and then I know exactly what to do and I have to do the whole thing again. And that happens a couple times. And like for me, I would just prefer if when you're doing those chases is they're a little bit like safer. So like if you accidentally trip on something, the thing chasing you will slow down a bit just so that you don't have to complete, like if you fail a little bit, you usually fail that whole chase. Which I think sucks because it does take you out a little bit. It's like a small nitpick, like
it's a direction choice, right? Like a lot of times games do this because they know that if the player dies in these sequences, it will take them out of the experience. Which is why a lot of times, like in Mirror's Edge, if you notice the person you're chasing, they'll like wait for you to chase them.
Exactly.
And it's like a lot of times people rip on it, but like if you don't have it, like in this case, then you'll have like a bigger, frustration with the game. So yeah.
Yeah, I do think with the chases, that could actually be one area where the trial and error does take you out of it, because it's not as much a puzzle as you just learning how you need to go through a scripted sequence, Yeah,
exactly. Just a bit more of like, I guess, a bigger window of like penalty, like literally as Charlie was saying, like I think that always happened to me where I would be like, sometimes even Six would get in the way where she would be like, standing where I wanted to run, right? So I'd get like a millisecond of a delay because I'd rub against her and like it would stop my sprint, and then all of a sudden I get squished by whatever falls on me. And that's not a big thing. It's just like, something I noticed that carried from the first game as well.
Yeah.
But yeah. Besides that, I will say though, I feel like I got stuck less often. Besides the combat sequences, I feel like the puzzles in this game.
I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah. I also noticed that a lot of times in the first game, in the Pursuers, you'd always be like kind of working around them a bit. In this one, you still have that with some of them, but a lot of times they're also just running away. So it's kind of interesting how they took a different direction, which I kind of enjoyed a bit more. So it was a nice, different game.
I will say I'm interested to see what they do with Little Nightmares now. Because without going spoilery, they do set up other things, and I don't really know what their plan is, because with the first one, they announced the DLC before the game came out, so we knew there was going to be extra content, and at the end of the DLC, they teased the second one. So I do hope there's another game, but I think if they're going to do another one, they really need to do more story. Because, like, the story's cool, but it gets old when you're constantly having to go, what does this mean? What's going on? Like, I don't mind that stuff to an extent, but like we've had 2 games and 3 DLCs and a mobile game, and people who are like really into Little Nightmares still don't really know what the game is about, or like what world they're in, or like what the hell's going on. And I feel like at this point I was kind of hoping the game would expand that a bit more, and it does a little bit, but I really hope if they do another one, it does kind of answer a lot more questions.
I thought the story was better in this one than the first one. Like, I feel like I have a better understanding, but there are still some questions that I still have in terms of this world as a whole that they haven't addressed. And I don't even know if like the the reason why you were being chased in the first game. I don't even know if that's the same reason why you're being chased in the second game. Like, it's clear that this world hates children. But, like, I thought there was a reason in the first game why that was the case, but it seems to be the case in this game as well. So there's clearly got to be something involved that's, like, a greater power, right? But we just haven't really found that out yet.
I have a bit of a different take on the story. Where for me, I like that it's vague and that I don't quite know what's going on, but I might be able to start to think that I kind of know what's happening. And it's because, so the title of the game is Little Nightmares. I really do feel like it's meant to just feel like you're going through a nightmare or a dream. So you're not going to understand all of what's going on. And like, it's very surreal and strange. And then also, every time that your character wakes up, every time that your character dies, when you respawn, your character is waking up from sleeping. So I think that all just fits into... I'm not sure if the story is meant to be taken as literally as you guys might think. I mean,
they definitely went with the direction with the story, though. Like, it can't just be a dream. Like, I don't know.
I mean,
like,
dreams can have, like, hidden meanings in them. So I sort of feel like that's what they were going for, but to me the specifics of what exactly happened in the story doesn't matter as much as like the experience of going through all the weird stuff and like creative
I do like
game
how
design and all that.
It is a bit like vague. Like, I do think I agree with both of you in a certain way. Like, I do like the fact that you got to find the stuff out for yourself, and a lot of times it's through like simple things as just like noticing what's being written on the wall and like truly looking at that picture. Like, I think in the DLC there's like a section where you see these two kids and then you see the eyeball and then you see two I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but like you just kind of put two and two together, right, essentially, by the world. And I do love that, but I also wish they kind of, I guess, not explicitly told more, but just, I don't know, tried to explain things that we have questions about. But I guess at the same time, if you do start to answer that, then the game becomes a little bit less scary, because then it's no longer a mystery. Like, if we knew why the people are the way that they are throughout this whole entire world, not just the locations, it wouldn't be as scary, I guess. But
I think
I was more satisfied by the sequel than the first one. I was like pretty upset by the first one in terms of the story, like they didn't give you much. But in the sequel, I feel like I truly have a pretty good understanding of what happened.
Yeah, I get what they're doing, and I enjoy it to a certain extent, but at the same time, I think, is it almost like the devs don't even really know the story? Like, because that happens all the time with these kind of things. Like, even look back at, like, the G-Man in Half-Life. Like, Valve do not know what the fuck G-Man is. Like, he's just some crazy dude that turns up in the games, and he does weird stuff. But Valve don't know who he is or where he comes from. Like, they were gonna... If they have to say that stuff, they'll make it up. And I feel like, to an extent, that is what happens in Little Nightmares. Like, they're like, hey, let's have these weird, creepy, giant things. They're wearing masks, but we're not going to say who they are because we don't really know how to explain it. But it'd be cool, so let's put it in the game.
It'd be cool to keep it open, and then, yeah.
Yeah, and like I like the idea of keeping it secretive, but at the same time, I do want to know the answers to some stuff. But again, I don't know if even the devs know this stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't.
You're probably right.
Because it does, like, beg the question whether they do. There are a lot of games that do this stuff, and yeah, I get it totally. If they had an answer for everything, it, like Brandon said, it might take away from the horror and things of the game, because you would know exactly who these people are and what their goals are and where they come from and that kind of thing. Yeah, hopefully we see more. That's my kind of takeaway from the
sequel. Is definitely a bigger improvement. Like, I'm full on for a third game after that.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Yeah, it definitely impressed me quite a bit compared to the first one. The first one I was honestly kind of disappointed by. Like, a lot of people mentioned the game as like a great thing, and the game was good, but it wasn't like great, you know.
Yeah, that's how I felt. And then But
I thought this one was great. Like, even with the combat, I still thought this game, with like the locations, the companionship, I genuinely thought this game was great.
Yeah.
And it was a bit longer for me. Like, I think I beat the first one in like 2.5 hours almost. And this one, it took me, I think, at least 4.5 to 5 hours. Probably 5 hours, I'd say.
For
Yeah, I think
me?
it was about 4.5 for me. Yeah.
For me, it felt about as long as the first game. Maybe it's a little bit longer. I
It's
don't know.
definitely longer than the first game, for sure.
Yeah.
The DLC in the first game felt long for me, and I guess I sort of
DLC was a lot more puzzle
disagree
oriented.
here. I didn't like the
So
DLC.
It's all about, like, I feel like the DLC is a lot personal for people. It depends on how quickly you saw some of the puzzles in that game.
Yeah, it took me forever.
Yeah, a lot of them were like quite tough to figure out.
Yeah.
It was a very different experience. I do like how this game, that's why I don't know, I'm a sucker for like constantly changing the scenery around you, and that's one thing I didn't really like about Little Nightmares 1, and it's in a way like a lot of the DLC as well. But in this game, like, you're constantly going to different areas. It was cool. But it still felt like you're solving puzzles to get out of where you were going. Like the sequence where you gotta fuel the elevator, right? Like, you're down there for a good, I want to say 30 to 45 minutes. But like then after that, then you go to somewhere else. Like, it felt like a good balance between staying in one area and figuring out how to get out, but at the same time changing up what the player sees and feeling like you're on an experience and a journey with your companion. So yeah, it's cool. Any closing thoughts? No, Charlie kind of gave his. Yeah.
I think it's a great game. It's a good way for me to start off this new generation of gaming since I haven't played any of the other new games yet. Yeah.
I mean, it's technically a PS4 game, but I guess like in terms of time period, right? Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of
that's
time
true.
period, I mean, I didn't even play it on PlayStation. I played it on PC, but
It's my favorite game of the year. It's the only competition is Hitman 3. But yeah. Anyways, I guess, yeah, that has been it for this week's episode. Definitely a lot of cool gaming stories, and we saw the, reveal, or I guess release finally of Little Nightmares 2, a game that a lot of people have been waiting for, because the first one came out, 4 years ago? So definitely glad I played it, and it was cool to talk about it, as all three of us were here on Kind of Perfect. And yeah, with that being said, I guess, once again, want to remind you to ask any questions or, any topics you want to see us address, either in the comment section down below the video or in our Discord, which of course is always found in the description. And yeah, Zach, thanks for joining us this week. It was nice to have you on.
Yeah.
If you wanted to, just tell people where they can find you again.
Oh, sure. And thank you for having me on. I know I was
sure.
probably pretty quiet for most of it. I don't follow gaming news too much.
You offer a different perspective, though, so it's always nice to not hear
yeah.
the same opinions each week, which is kind of the charm in that.
But yeah, I'm on youtube.com/c/madmansknowledge. Like I said, I review all types of media. I don't upload very often, but I live stream 3 times a week as of right now. So that's what's up.
Right on. And Charlie, of course, you can find him on Twitter. That's always going to be in the description below as well. And same thing for me, honestly. Twitter is kind of where it's all at. So I'll tweet about anything I'm doing, whether for the podcast or for my personal channels. So yeah, that's the best way to find me there. And until then, we'll see you next week for episode 14. Until then, take care.
See you later.
Bye.